Okay, well, thank you all for joining us today. I know everybody has had a little commentary on what the weather's about to be for each of us, so I'm glad we're able to see smiling faces before we get incredibly sad with snow or rain. My name is Dawn Marie Johnson. For those of you that don't know, I am the Director of Leadership and Culture for the South Dakota Afterschool Network. The South Dakota Afterschool Network has really been taking off this last year. They were a party of one for quite some time. And since this last April, March, we've been a party of five. So right now we are just in the midst of showcasing and sharing out all the great success that we've had this last year. And a couple of the pillars that we've really honed in on are our Indigenous engagement, Youth Voice Project, STEM and entrepreneurship, and program quality. I've had my hand in about every single one, but the biggest one that I've been focused on is our youth voice. And excitingly enough, Megan, our guest who you'll get to meet here soon, we just found out that Lily, who is in our Youth Voice Project and a part of the Watertown Boys and Girls Club, has won Youth of the Year for Boys and
Wow.
Girls Club. So we are so excited to have that news in the forefront of this special conversation. But what we're here to do today is really to learn from each other. I brought in two of my very good friends who I see as experts in the field, and I really want you guys to have the opportunity to hear from them, learn more about them, but ultimately, because after school we're just so far few and in between, and sometimes we feel like a silo, I'd love for each of us to be able to lean on each other. We're not going to know everything, and we're not going to be an expert in everything, and I want them to be able to share what they do, where they've been, in hopes of you all being able to connect beyond this, outside of this. And when we're able to convene, we have that sense of camaraderie and shared space that we can be together and continue to do the great work we do. So I'm super excited. I'm going to start with the fabulous Mark in what is my corner with the green background space. I've known Mark since I've been in after school. Do I give the years, Mark? You can give
Go
your.
ahead.
Oh, okay, okay. So I've known Mark since 2013 when I first stepped into the after school world working at the Enemy Swim Day School after school program. Him and I have been buddies, East River, West River, as planning the South Dakota Sodak Saka Day at the Capitol. And I've had the best experience because of him. He is an expert in the field. He will give you how many years he has under his belt, and he's a phenomenal person to know. He's just a giver of light. He definitely, when he walks in a room, you guys know it, and he has a really, really big heart. So, Mark, please share with us a little bit about you and take it away.
Well, I do wear deodorant, so that's not the reason why I'm there when I walk into a room. And again, I've been in after school for 35 years, and sometimes it amazes me. I was a homegrown kid. I actually came to the boys club here in Rapid City when I was a kid. I was on a training program here when I was in high school. The program was grant funded and ran out my senior year, so then I started getting ready for college, working somewhere else. Um, Born and raised in South Dakota, and when I left here to go to school, I didn't really plan on coming back right away. The opportunities in the world, they're so big and there's so much world to see. But it's funny how God pushes you. When I was after college, I got a job as a wrestling coach working with kids. I had some great mentors, teachers, and otherwise. My mom was into social work, and some of my most influential people were teachers. And when I was getting ready, I had to make a decision where I wanted to go. Again, school was having a budget cut, and I knew I was going to be cut. I thought, well, should I go back and get that teaching certificate? Maybe I should go on to law school or something like that. And then I get this phone call, and the Club for Boys called up, the boys club at that time, and they said, hey, we got a position to open up. We'd like to have you come back and try it. I'd always planned to come back later on after I'd done some other career and take over, but this presented itself at a time when my mom, who had MS, needed some help. So everything worked out for me to come back. And again, I didn't intend to stay 35 years at that time. I just said, well, as soon as I get this down, then I'll move on and try something else. Well, 35 years later, you know, the dynamics of working after school and out of school time programs, there's always something new. There's always some way to apply your talents. And so I've never been bored. And next week on April 8th will be 35 years for being in the work. So can't imagine being anywhere else or doing anything else this time, but you know, we'll see what God says, and I may be here for another 10 years. So
Wow. Again, you always blow me away every time I hear about how your life has come to and just like the passion you have behind working for after school programs. Again, you just have one of the biggest hearts and for sure expert in the field. 35 years. I think we said it 3 times, but I'm going to say it again. Mark is truly an epitome of what we look forward to when we are all working our way through the after school world. I want to be like you when I grow up, Mark.
hopefully you get to keep your hair.
Thank you for sharing. So, my other guest that I have is a dear friend of mine. We went to school together. We landed in the social work program at the University of South Dakota. Somehow, I convinced her to play rugby with me and be my friend. And somehow, I've been able to keep her around. So, it's been awesome to see Megan grow and transition into her new role. And I'll let her share what that is. But she has traditionally been in more of a capacity working with children and families at a ground level. And she's just shifted into her new role in her after school program. But I'm super excited to have her here today. She has a really unique role within her Boys and Girls Club. And I'm excited for her to share about that because I think there's a lot of people interested in learning more about what you do. So, Megan, take it away.
Yeah, so a little bit about myself. I don't quite have the resume like Mark does. He's been working at after school for longer than I've been alive, so that's quite the legacy. But I've been in my role at the Boys and Girls Club in Watertown as a behavioral health social worker for just over a year. It was a year in February, so just a year and a couple of months. So I'm still trying to establish exactly what the role is of the social worker here at the Watertown Boys and Girls Club because it's a brand new position to our agency as well. Prior to that, I'd worked in child welfare, worked at Child Protection Services here in Watertown. It was my first job right out of school, and I worked there for just about 10 years. So I had good experience in working with different populations, working with at-risk youth and their families in multiple capacities. I worked with trying to reunify kids. I did adoptions. I licensed foster parents. I did investigations. And so I was able to have experience in every realm of the child welfare that we have to offer in the state. So that certainly was an impactful job. It was a heavy job. And not, you didn't feel like you came out with very many success stories. But it certainly gave me really great knowledge and really great experience to deal with children and families in any capacity. I have the confidence to be able to work with families to help in whatever is facing them in life. So my role here at the Boys and Girls Club Watertown, it's been really fun because there's a little bit of fluidity with it. I have a little bit of autonomy to see which direction we want to take this program. So I work very closely with the kids. I teach a couple of classes. The one thing that I am currently working on is we are on a journey to become a trauma-informed Boys and Girls Club. And so this is something that Boys and Girls Club of America is pushing right now. And so I'm a part of Trauma Informed cohort to be a trauma informed specialist through BGCA. So that actually just started on Monday, that process did. So it's very new. And so we got to create a couple of goals and things that we're kind of already doing here at the club. And it's, I have a ton of experience in dealing with kids with trauma. And so I am excited to share my education and my experience with the staff here and help them better respond to the kids, and keep kids here at our Boys and Girls Club around those positive role models. So,
Yeah, no, your role is incredibly important right now. I think there's a lot of need, not I think, I know there's a lot of need in after school programming to have somebody with that level of expertise dealing with trauma, because by way of even just going through the pandemic, a lot of our kids are, the residual impacts of those things are transferring over into our after school programs, right? We're seeing an uptick in behaviors. We're seeing disconnect with parents and families. And this isn't new news. I just think that there's been a lot of shed light on it, and it's opened the door to conversations to get national organizations like Boys and Girls Club to be like, oh, hey, let's be the leader in this and start to incorporate those things into our after school program. So I'm incredibly excited for you to have this opportunity to bring your level of expertise to their program. And I've learned a lot from, there's a couple of people that are joining now, but one of Megan's youth workers at Watertown had just won the Boys and Girls Club Youth of the Year. And she was also a part of my youth opportunities. So we're just like totally celebrating right now. But her primary focus has been to share about her own mental health and then share out how her after school program has impacted her by way of helping her get through these sort of difficult times, the challenges, the mentorship. It's really exciting, Mark, that you brought up how big mentorship was for you. And I really wanted you to share that out a little bit more on the impact of that and what you see moving forward for your club for boys. Like where do you see mentorship playing a role in your world right now?
I think it's huge. One of the questions that you'd asked us prior to going online was that you talk about memorable moments. And that plays into this. As a kid, I was one of 5 boys. Finding a way to stand out in a crowd like that's a little tough sometimes, and I was very competitive. But one of the most important and memorable experiences of my life, especially after school, was the day when the program director here remembered my name. Before that, you're just one of all those kids coming up. But when someone takes the time to get to know you, to know your name, I can't tell you how important that was to me, but it's also something I stress with our staff every day, that these kids need you to know them. They need to know you care. You can't make a difference if they don't know you care. And as far as my mentorship, I work mostly within the club itself, and I've been here for 35 years, and I came back in part because of what after school meant to me as a kid. And I want to make sure when I leave that I leave that for the next generation of workers and kids that come through. And so a big focus for me right now is training. It is trying to get those things set in place so that that can be carried on. And I think every one of us needs to do that. Mentorship, I'm willing to collaborate and work with anyone. I really feel that we're moving in the right direction with after school, developing degrees in professionalism and some credibility for what we do.
Yeah.
Meg is a great example of the qualitative stuff that out of school and after school programs are doing for kids. I think that the general stereotype is that we're like the lifeguard. You just put someone out there and they don't realize the in-depth and qualitative work that experienced and trained professionals are doing every day, making a difference in kids' lives. And that's really what I want to encourage, going forward too.
Yeah, it's exciting to hear so many people, professionals in our realm, have a impacted mentorship program, a personal story to share, which leads to their professional journey, having mentorship in the forefront of how they practice, which is really great. Megan, do you have any mentorship programs going on with Boys and Girls Club currently?
Clubs within the club. We have a number of those. I personally run the Kindness Club, which is something that I just kind of created last summer. So I do have the ability to spend some time with certain kids, and be that mentor, or for them. But I certainly, I put the mentorship, to me, at least from what I've experienced this far in my after school career, is probably the most important part of after school. Because I do onboarding training, and part of that, and part of my trauma informed journey is educating people on how trauma affects the brain, and where behaviors are coming from. And so I talk a lot about ACEs, adverse childhood experiences. And one of the, I guess you could say, coolest things that, I think anyways, that comes out of adverse childhood experiences is the way that you can help repair the damage done by ACEs on a child's brain. And one of those things is mentorship and is relationship. Sometimes these kids just need one positive role model, one positive adult to help them make those good choices. And so certainly with the new staff that started at the club, I really try to inspire them to want to make those connections and want to do that mentorship, and to essentially, you could be that lifeline for a kid for something that is going on at home. So yeah, I feel very strongly about that, and I love that I have the opportunity to do that with the kids here, and to get out in front of it. Whereas my career before was always coming in when the game's almost over. I mean, we're coming in at a very low spot in their lives, and we're not providing a lot of help. And this is an opportunity to be proactive and get those kids involved in healthy activities, in that healthy relationship. And it truly could be what turns the corner in their life, to give them that trajectory to do well and aspire to do well.
Yeah,
And I also
absolutely.
think, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Mark.
I just wanted to go on top of it. We talk about mentorship. Mentorship is a way to keep out of school and after school programs going. I have 5 young men working for us right now who came through the program just like I did. It's that exposure, the experience, the passion you get from that to keep it going, that would only help any program. I'm sure Boys and Girls Club is just full of people who are impacted by Megan and other people who showed an interest and mentored them to come back in and do this work, and to give it back, pay it forward. So another reason why mentorship, I think, is very important.
Yeah, and not just mentorship for youth, but both of you hit on being able to share out with either coworkers or people that work for you, beside you. All those things are really important. Peer-to-peer mentorship as adults, for me, has been really important. I've gone up to several women who I admire here in Sioux Falls, and I've asked them to mentor me, because it's just that constant growth to be able to say that I'm doing everything I possibly can to be a better version of me, right? And so on the last piece that I wanted to hit on, we're talking about staff appreciation, we're talking about trauma-informed care, we're talking about mentorship. Share with me at least 1 to 2 things that each of you do to make sure you're taking care of yourself. Because as we know, it's hard to serve other vulnerable populations if you're not taking care of yourself first. So you could be, mine personally, I have to run. I have to get outside. I have to run. I have to clear my mind. When I get really nervous and sweaty to do some speeches, running gets me through those things. So share with me 1 to 2 things that you found to be able to help keep yourself sane and well taken care of. Go ahead, Mark.
Well, I was going to let Megan go first this time, but I will. One of the things, I read books and listen to books, and I walk my dog, and having that time, that half hour or so where I don't have any other input but books I'm choosing is one of the ways. The other thing, though, that I've started here the last couple of years is I need to take extended time away from work. One day doesn't do it for me. If I'm somewhere and I see something cool and interesting, it puts me in work mode. I write a note down and I'm thinking about work. But if I take a week, an extended period of time to where I can be out and away, no one's calling about everything. I mean, it's set to go, and that's what I need. And And when I can do that, especially with my spouse, because our schedules are so different. We don't see each other as much as we'd like, and with the stress of the job, we don't spend the best quality time together because we're not always at our best. And so getting us both out is one of the ways that I do some self-care.
Incredibly important. Good insights for sure. Because yeah, some people are like, well, I'll just take a half day on Friday and I'll feel better Monday. No, probably not. That doesn't do it quite. Megan, what about you?
Yeah, self-care. Something that I truly neglected in myself in my last job, just because the what was required of me was just not something that's achievable by any human being. So it was certainly something that I neglected, but I'm focusing much more on that here at my new job, and it's much easier to do that. I'm able to have a little bit more freedom to do those things. But being outside, which has been really difficult with the weather. I like to play sports, walk my dog. I bought a camper, so I'm gonna be doing some camping. So that's definitely one of the things that I do. One thing that I will say about this job is when all of the kids are here, sometimes when I need just like a break from being a professional, going out and finding a group of kids and just being really silly and funny, and playing a game of some sort, go show some kids up in dodgeball or something like that. um, it's kind of nice to have that little like mental break for like 5-10 minutes, and just go be an immature kid with some kids, and then come back to being a professional. So I've found that pretty fun in this job.
And you guys don't know this, but Megan has a wicked throwing arm. So I can only imagine the damage she's done playing dodgeball with kids. No, that's great. Well, I just want to say thank you to both of you. Honestly, I feel like we could divide up so many topics that we just ran through and do really lengthy sessions on each thing. Mark, I would definitely encourage you to get in touch with Megan with all the areas of your leadership stuff that you talked about. I think you guys would collaborate really, really well. So again, for those of you here, reach out to them, email them, and know that you're all experts in the field, but we don't expect you to know everything. And this was just one opportunity for us to share out, hear the great things that are going on, East River, West River, all the things. Lisa does have one PSA that she just dropped in the chat box. Can you speak to that a little bit so I don't mess it up?
Yes, I can. I popped into the chat box. We have about 2 days left on a nationwide survey. That's the Power of Us survey. If you haven't taken that yet, I encourage you to do so. It takes a short amount of time, but it's really gathering a lot of information, specifically about people who work with kids on a daily basis. We get to collect this information specifically for the state of South Dakota, and that'll be information that we can share out with other programs. Things that cover everything from pay scales across the country for childcare workers and after-school professionals, to burnout issues and challenges within the workforce. It's really looking to dive into that and figure out where those issues are. And these kind of surveys really help us to go after advocating for support, whether that's financial support, or other areas of support that after school programs and professionals like everyone in this room really need. So if you're able to take a few minutes, we definitely appreciate that. That's it. It's the end of my PSA.
Yeah, and we all know how important data is to get what we need to do what we do.
Mhm.
So please share this out to your folks. If you need an incentive, or Megan, if you need to tell them I'm not going to throw the dodgeball at you today, I'll do the survey. Please share that out. It is really important to have the data that backs up to do what we do and to be able to get funding going for all the needs that we're trying to cover. So yeah, please share that. Lisa will maybe send that out after this to everybody that was here.
Yes, I can definitely probably do that. Mhm.
Definitely, probably sounds
Yep.
very confident.
Mhm.
So I also, our upcoming next fireside chats, we will be diving more into mental health. We have Jake here. He's going to have somebody lined up that will really explore and dive further into it. I know we kind of touched the surface on it, but he will have a couple more experts in the field to share out more on the mental health space, what that looks like. And from there, we'll have one more in May. We'll take a little break over the summer and we'll come back really strong next year. So thank you guys for joining us today. We really appreciate it. Thank you, Mark and Megan, for being here, sharing, and continue